Just taking a look at the upcoming schedule, and let's focus, shall we, on Chelsea. You take a look.
Why didn't they do this in the summer?
I don't know, Craig. We've gone. I feel like we're going around in circles.
Well, why don't they pay the 10 million in the summer?
Because they won the FA Cup.
And sort all this out.
Right, that's it.
Back at the end of May, they could have made a big decision. They could have gone to Sporting and done a deal in the summer. He would have been in. The whole thing would have at least been a little bit clearer. But they had no real vision of what they wanted. They just stumbled until they had to make some sort of decision. And now they've, it has been at the moment. At the moment, they're not running it any better than the previous people. I'm sure they will in time, but at the moment, they are not.
Yeah, and that bar was certainly low. Right, let's take a look, shall we, at the odds for Manchester United against Chelsea this weekend. Chelsea come into the game, of course, taking quite a few by surprise with the way they started this season. They come in at 3. You can't separate it. You can't separate it who they think is going to be the winner going into this draw thing. Can we separate it? Let's take a look at everyone's predictions going into this tie. We certainly can. Wow. This is El Clasico all over again. Where's Louise?
Almost guarantees a Manchester United win.
I thought we hated Chelsea, but it seems that we...
No, you hate Chelsea. As a former Chelsea player.
Man United. Even more. They had this big win against Leicester in the Carabao Cup yesterday, but Leicester made 8 or 9 changes.
Yeah.
It's still difficult to see how United are going to conjure up a decent performance. I suppose the first 45 minutes at West Ham last week, finishing aside,
yes,
was better. But boy, West Ham were atrocious in the first half. Absolutely atrocious. And it's just hard to see this side putting 90 minutes together. And, you talked about Chelsea there, how they've been a bit of a surprise. They have. They lost to Newcastle in the Cup, but made changes. But going forward, they've looked really good.
Overworking on the training ground. They'd have a defeat or a bad performance, and he'd make them work hard on training ground. He'd make them run. And that was just draining the energy of the players mentally and physically. So I think they're going to get a lift from him not being there. Sad as it is, managers get sacked because the players just switch off, and they switch off because they don't have any warmth for him. It's one of those things. A lot of the players will be happy he's gone because it gives them a bit more freedom.
Right. You talk about Marcus Rashford here. We look at his numbers. Some really good, some pretty average. And I get it. You don't get on with every manager. We've all been there, and some of it has been petty, like the David De Gea stuff to Ten Hag. I know he's gone.
Yes.
But there's no need for all that. There just is not. But Marcus Rashford, and he's not alone here, but because we put the graphic up, we'll talk about him. He needs to get his head screwed on. He does, right? Whether it's a new manager coming in that loves him and puts an arm around him or whatever, doesn't matter. He needs to sort it out for himself. He's one of many, right? He's one of many, but he's a senior player. He's a full international player. When he's on his game, he was in the first 11 in the England team, and he needs to ask himself a question: what kind of Marcus Rashford do I want to be? The one that sort of saunters around and looks as if he doesn't give a toss? Or the one that scares defences and scores goals and just drives it full-backs, works hard? Because we haven't seen that enough. And he's I'm not saying he's a team leader, but he's one of the most experienced players in there. And I think him, along with many, many others, a lot of them are not good enough to be at the football club. He is. Mm-hmm. But it's up there with Marcus Rashford. And you can't keep saying, well, I didn't get on with that manager and I didn't get on with that manager. Sometimes you've got to go out. Guess what? You've got to do it for yourself and your family and your career. And he's a classic case to me of somebody who, an absolute classic, got his new contract after that big season he had a couple of years ago and licked the stamp on the postcard and mailed it in.
Right.
That's what it looks like to me.
I have to say, I love Marcus Rashford. I think he's an incredibly talented footballer, and I look at Manchester United's setup, particularly with Ruud van Nistelrooy, as a part of it. And while Craig's right, you consider Marcus Rashford one of the more senior, certainly one of the more experienced players within that dressing room. I just feel that he needs that kind of person to call on, that he can speak with, because I just feel he's not far off being the Rashford that we saw post-2022. But kind of give him a lot of the dysfunction behind the scenes and on the sidelines at Manchester United, you wonder if that played played a part.
You really are giving people
I
a
am.
lot of leeway
But
in the
at
last
the
couple
same time,
of days.
we're only a few weeks away from Marcus Rashford having the best 45 minutes we've seen from him for 18 months, and Ten Hag taking him off at halftime. Now, as a young player trying to get back into
He's 27.
As a 27-year-old player as any player trying to get back into any kind of form, you don't need that. And you don't need that from the sidelines. So, all that being said, I just feel, while, yes, absolutely, there is a lot of deadwood, a lot of players can be better, what's been happening behind the scenes and managerially with Manchester United has not helped.
The reason I say that is because you can really... The other ones, you can question whether Højlund's going to be good enough. At the moment, the answer would be for Man United, no. Zirkzee, forget it. Anthony, forget it. Garnacho stood up. But the reason I say about Rashford is because he is good enough. He is good enough to produce more. The others, you can sort of forget about them, most of them. I mean, young Højlund, I don't want to be too harsh. He's a squad player. He's a worker, he's a grafter. Maybe he'll learn, maybe he'll come on a little bit more. But for those that are already there, that are ready-made to go and play, that's why I'm harsher on him. I'm not so harsh on Anthony because he's nothing more. He's a clown. He's a flash in the pan. That's what he is. He wants to clown around in treks and do all that sort of stuff, right? That's not what they need. They need people that are going to roll the sleeves up and do the business. And the reason we're picking Rashford more than these others, because he can. He can, but whether it's the reasons that Shaka said and has mentioned, or whether I suspect there is more to it than that, and in his head, it's almost like he wants people to feel sorry for him. Don't. Just get out there and do what you're good at.
I'm calling it. That's it. Enough of Manchester United.